The SOS skill is one of the most important achievements you can get in War and Order. Really, the game actually starts when you get the SOS skill. But how, and more importantly, when should you use it? In this video, we'll go over my top 10 tips for how and when to use this important skill. But before we get started, if you're a fan of War and Order or mobile gaming in general, you're in the right place. I release between 3 and 5 videos a week on War and Order and other mobile games. So hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and most importantly, share the video with your friends. All right, let's get started.
This a threat, I get heretic, boy, your time's up. Destroy and test them, learn your lesson for your mind bust. When you the best, you never fret, just watch them burn. Gotta learn how to move and how to step, just
The SOS skill allows you to attack a castle or a mine or a tile alone. And all your losses up to your hospital cap will be converted to wounded. It'll last for one attack. So once you use it and you do an attack and you actually use up that skill, it's going to go on a 24-hour timer before you can actually use it again. The skill is available in your Lord's tree. I can show you here, very beginning. And you scroll through, it's past, fast, expansion. It's called Battle SOS. The skill is available when you get to about Lord 35. Remember, the Lord level is very different than your castle level. You only need the Lord experience to actually level it. So you can get Lord experience from a lot of different places, including attacking monsters and in a lot of events like in your reward purchases, your infinite war and that. So the mechanic works like this. The skill can be used at any time before the fight ends. So you can attack like this Lord right here, you can attack that and not use your SOS if you think you're actually going to win the fight. But if someone sends reinforcements, then you could hit that SOS in time and it would still work. It's really important though to mention that you can't use this in a multi-person attack, like a timed attack or a speed attack. Also, you can't use it in the Crown War on any towers or on the middle, or you can't use it on the Alliance Castle. You can't use it on a flag, that type of thing. If you try, the skill won't be used and you'll lose a lot of troops. So this brings me to the first tip. So number 1 tip for using the SOS skill, coordinate it with your alliance. If a target is given out, like I see, Gunhawk has listed a target here and he'll post a scout probably in a little bit. If it's given out, be absolutely sure if you're gonna hit it with SOS that your alliance is aware and no one else is also going to hit it at the same time. If they do that, you're both going to take losses. And it's happened many times. And it's really bad when it does. All right, so tip number 2. Remember that you don't really necessarily need to use the SOS skill before you launch it. Like you could go in and you could go into your skills and you could hit that Battle SOS and then you could launch out and attack. If you know that your attack, that's what you want to do. You want to use your SOS on this target. You're absolutely sure you're going to need it. You can do it that way. But another way you can do it is like the best way probably is to, attack if you're attacking farms. If you're farming farms, let's say, and you're hitting them and then someone reinforces, then use the SOS. Or if you're attacking someone that's significantly smaller and you're not going to take many losses and you're being smart with your actual formation where you're sending some low-level troops like your tier 1, tier 2 troops out there so that they take the losses. But then you're doing that and you're hitting a bunch of different castles and then someone jumps into that alliance and starts a reinforcement. In the middle of that battle where they've reinforced, if you have your SOS available, you're going to save a lot of losses. This will keep you from wasting your SOS on easy attacks, and it'll prevent losses, in the end. All right. Tip number 3, always use a spotter or someone who can scout for you. So someone in the alliance or one of your alts needs to be scouting. Don't use your main account to do the scouting where you're going to hit. It's a lot smarter to just have another account scout all the time, every day, all the time, so that people are used to it. Because if they know you're going to hit, they're going to move their troops. All right. Tip number 4, always use your full buffs. And I'm going to do it now. I'm going to go here into my castle city buff. I'm going to go through, I'm going to look, I have an advanced expansion. I'm going to use an advanced attack. I'm going to use superior here. I have my buffs all set. I'm ready to go. Wait, there's another buff here. I can use my fast expansion here, give me another 10% of my army. So now when I attack, I have my best setup is ready to go. So make sure that you always boost up. You want to do this because you want to do everything you can so that you can walk away with less wounded and you can destroy more of your enemy's troops, even one more troop. You need to get through their front line so you can do the max amount of damage that you possibly can. All right, number 5, only SOS targets. When you get a reinforcement on your target, like I was saying, like if you're attacking and they reinforce, then you want to use your SOS. Or when your enemy is significantly over cap. So what is over cap? That means, and you'll have to kind of use it your head, like from your experience in playing the game. If someone is at level 30, level 32, level 34, and they have over 300,000 troops, they're pretty over cap. They're probably, between 70, between, let's say, 40 and 70,000 troops over cap. This is going to mean that their hospital's going to fill up, and then you're going to inflict real losses, because in the end, that's what you want. If you're attacking people so that you can just put troops in their hospital, you're going to end up with a lot of troops in your hospital, and it's a kind of a wasted effort. Your goal is losses on that enemy side. You want troops to go to their sanctuary. You want their sanctuary to fill up, and you want them to take real losses if you can. There's no other real reason to attack anybody, at least in your realm, if you're not looking to that. Number 6, use a formation with about 25 to 35% front line. So what is front line? All right, let's look at the army. Your front line is going to be your cav, and it's going to be your infantry. So if you're an infantry-based player, you want to use 25 to 35% of infantry. And then you want to use all the angels you have. So you want to use all your angels. And then whatever's left over, you want to be your whatever you are. If you're a mage or infantry, a mage or archer. So if you're archer like I am, the rest of it's going to be your highest level archers. All right. Number 7, and this comes right on to that. Number 7, use your best troops. A lot of other videos that I've watched really preach using even tier infantry or mages and odd for cav and archers. Well, that may go well in your kind of timed attacks and your speed attacks, your group attacks. And even then you kind of want to match what your alliance is doing so that you don't, have someone out of position. But the bonus is more important on these SOSs. The bonuses you get at the higher And the bonuses that you get, like your buffs that the troops get, a lot of times, they're good, but in general, the added bonus that you get from a higher level troop, and I'm going to show you that real quick. This is important. So if I'm here and I'm looking at tier 11 infantry, I have 1,936 hit points. If I look at tier 12, it's 2389. You're not going to tell me that this mage resistance, is going to be so great that it's going to make up for the 400, plus hit points that my tier 12 is going to have. The same way from your tier 13, you're looking at almost 600 hit point difference between tier 13 and tier 12. It's ridiculous to think that the little bit of mage resistance that you get is really going to be the difference. And I know, maybe they're looking at, really low levels, between your 7s and your 8s, where the difference might not be as great. Even there, it's, 239 hit point difference. It still seems ridiculous. I would go with the higher level troops that you have. And honestly, in almost every situation, they're going to outweigh your the measly little buffs you get here. But that's me, and that's from my experience. All right, so now tip number 8. In general, know your enemy's schedule. In general. If it's a European-based alliance, the majority of their players are in Europe like ours. 2 or 3 hours after reset, they're all going to be passed out because you're talking, it's 2, 3, 4 in the morning. You're going to have less of them on. So if you have a target to hit at that time, you're going to have less reinforcements on your target. If a lot of people, unless you're like way above everybody else, you don't want a lot of reinforcements on the target. Even then, on an SOS, you don't want a lot of in your realm, at least not in Void, you don't want a lot of reinforcements on your target. You want to hit targets that are over cap, right? And you want to give them losses. Well, if people are reinforcing, it's going to cause you more damage, and those people that are reinforcing definitely won't be taking any losses. So it's kind of a wasted effort. So the less reinforcements, the better on an SOS. All right, so number 9. Speaking of events, for some events, it's good if you have your SOS available. So you want to time it so that you're going to have that SOS available, especially in Void. In Void, you take real losses. Having your SOS available will allow you to get points without taking any losses on that attack. Super critical. So again, if you're out and you're attacking in Void, in general, you're not going to be attacking anyone that's equal to you or better. Or, and that could be the number of troops that they have in their castle, and it could be their stats, their tech. So you want to attack people that you can beat without taking a ton of losses, because those losses are real losses and they're gone forever. So having that SOS available on reinforcements, or if you attack someone and they have a ton of troops and you weren't paying attention because it's a 24-hour event, you could be half asleep. So having your SOS available during that event is great. The other one that I like to use it in occasionally is during the crown. I can't use it on the towers. It's not going to help me on the royal castle. It's not going to help me on the alliance castle in the defense phase, but it does help me attack individuals. In some realms, people look down on that, or people just don't do it, and that's fine. In other realms, you can do it. People do it, and you can weaken your enemy by by hitting them, especially the ones that just pour out to the mud. If you immediately hit those, they can take a lot of losses because they haven't moved their troops. So just be smart about it. It's something I look for. If someone's porting over to the mud and I can catch them, I'll hit them. Yep. All right. So number 10, the last tip I have for using your SOS is don't SOS an enemy, again, that is significantly better than you or even with you if they have a lot of troops. You're going to take a big hospital bill and most likely you won't do very much damage against them at all. If you follow everything else, you have someone out scouting, you're going to find a target and you're going to coordinate that with your alliance so that you can do the max amount of damage. For example, right now, I had someone give me this target and they told me they have over 300,000 troops. I don't think their cap is 300,000, so I can probably do some damage. I've already buffed up. I'm just gonna go ahead and you know what? And we're gonna practice this out. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna send my troops out before I hit my SOS. So here I'm gonna go with my 35%, 30% or so front line, fill in my back after I use all of my angels. All right, and then I am gonna add a few more of my regular archers here. I'm gonna go to 171. That gets me pretty darn close, and I'm just gonna top it off here. All right, so I'm gonna send this attack out. And I'm gonna speed it on in. And I'm gonna see this attack start. And I see they have all their troops. Now I'm gonna hit that SOS so I don't take losses. Now we're watching this happen. And I've already gone through their front line. Now I'm hitting their back line. And they're gone. Now I don't know if they took real losses, but another thing, a bonus here, is once you send out your SOS, you want to immediately put on a peace shield. You want to do that because you're your most vulnerable here, because now you put troops into your hospital. I mean, I didn't take a lot of losses here. I only had, about 14K wounded. I probably could have done that without my my SOS if I would have, used my troops. One thing I haven't talked a lot about is when you're doing a solo attack, you can go in and you can set your formation here. And what you can do, so if I'm sending, right now I just started getting tier 12. I don't have enough to fill up with tier 12. So I'm using 12 and 11 front line. So I could use tier 1 and tier 2 front line. Like I could use tier 2 and my tier 1 cav, and those guys would take the losses. So, in this case, I could have added, 7,000 or 8,000 of my tier 2 and, 6,000 or 7,000 of my tier 1 along with all my other troops. And I wouldn't have really taken any losses, just my tier 1 and tier 2, and those are super easy to replace. But I didn't do that. And when you do an SOS, you can take wounded and you want to shield up, right after that attack as your troops are coming back home, so you don't get someone that then, you've sent the majority, a lot of your troops out, a full march, especially if you're all buffed up, and now someone attacks you. They're going to attack troops that aren't as strong as your main, attack. And you can possibly go over your cap limit that way. So it's always a good habit to go ahead and hit that shield right after your SOS. Another bonus tip here, you're going to be doing dust attacks. So you can trick people. You know, I just did a speed attack, but I don't really need to. If I'm always sending out dust attacks, you know, a lot of them, not just one a day. Let's say I'm sending out small numbers, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 troops at a time, and I'm sending them at different targets, and I'm doing that every day. And I'm hiding the rest of my troops, so if I do get attacked while I'm doing that, I'm not losing anything. If I'm doing that all the time, I could do an SOS where I send out a regular attack, especially if I'm using a decoration so you can't really see my march. I could send those out, and you know, I could slip one through where they're thinking it's a dust attack. They don't get any reinforcements. You know, no one's really watching because I'm doing it all the time, so they're getting complacent. And I end up, you know, without having to speed, just a regular SOS attack, being able to do tons of damage on someone who doesn't get reinforcements because they're not really expecting it. So that's something that we use every once in a while as well. Anyway, so I hope this helps. And let's look and see if there were any losses here. He took 27 losses. Oh my God. But look, his hospital is now full. So if someone wants to follow up here, I can send this out. If someone wants to follow up, he will take losses on his next hit. All right, so I hope you enjoyed and maybe found something here useful with SOSs. And if you have any additional tips to add, please leave them in the comments. All right, take care. Goodbye.